Keeping track of kids can be tough, even when you're stuck at home with them for months at a time. Am I right? But now that the world is opening up again, how do we adjust to all this new extra freedom? Well, Susie, a mother of 2 kids under 10, recently confronted this issue head on, and she ended up feeling panicked, embarrassed, and like a bad mom. But instead of spiraling down that bad mom drain, Susie reached out to find out what she could do to stay connected to her youngster without getting him a cell phone. Mom guilt is so draining, and we don't want you to feel it. So today, Susie is joining me on Safety Chat to talk about ways to help keep our kids safe without resorting to a smartphone. Let's go to my interview with Susie. Hi, Susie. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's important for us to try to find ways to keep our kids safe now that they're starting to leave the house, because we've all been trapped together for so long. As you and your kids have resumed kind of some normal things with sports practices and stuff like that. Do you mind telling us a little bit about what happened there?
So I dropped my son off at soccer practice, and I went to go get my daughter and pick her up at daycare. And when I left, I did not realize that they had canceled practice. So my son sat there for a half hour all alone at the park. And when I picked him up, he was terrified, so upset, and I felt terrible. And he had no way to reach me.
Oh my gosh, that's so terrifying. And you're a working mom. Keeping it all straight can be really hard, and that practice being canceled and not getting the notification, that's got to be awful. Kindergarten year of my daughter, I forgot her many times because I was in meetings, and you just feel like you let your kid down, you're a bad mom, they're gonna be traumatized forever. But that's not the case. And fortunately, here now 23 years later, there are things available that were not available back when my poor child was abandoned after kindergarten. So could you mind sharing how old your son is?
He is 7 years old.
Okay, right. So what you told me initially is you're like, I want a way that he could let me know as I'm driving off to get his sister that nobody's there and that things are canceled, but you don't want to give your 7-year-old a cell phone.
I feel like a cell phone is just way too open to the world. There's features on a cell phone that he would be open to that he doesn't need. And it's just, I worry about privacy and just what he can access at this age.
I think that's totally legit concern, because even my kids that are so much older than yours, they're digital natives. They understand, it's like they're born with this innate knowledge of how technology works. And I can give my almost 7-year-old niece my phone, probably for the past 2 years. She's adding things, unlocking things. She made Snapchat videos of herself and filters. I'm like, how does she learn how to do that? Where does it come from? It's so mind-boggling, but I totally understand you having that. What do you know about alternatives to cell phones?
I know that there are a ton of watches out there, because when I started to even begin my research, I just got bombarded with a ton of ads. And I think there are some cell phones out there that might have limited access. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, those are great options. There are smartwatches, which are a nice alternative to a cell phone. And it feels like shows like spy shows or whatever, where they would talk in their watch, like it seemed like such a far future type of technology. But that's exactly what some of these smartwatches do. So they have GPS tracking in them and two-way communication. Your son can say, hey mom, nobody's at the park. What should I do? And even if you can't turn around immediately and get him, he knows you're there, you know what's going on, and you could stay connected to him the whole time while he sits there, and he would probably be a little less terrified. But what I think is cool about the smartwatch idea with the communication is that if you just had a GPS tracker for him, because there are things that are like buttons or tabs, something that you can attach to his bag that he takes to practice or put in his pocket, that would let you know where he is or if he's out of certain boundaries, but you wouldn't be able to talk to him with that. And so what's cool about this, about the smartwatch idea, is that you could communicate with him and you guys can be on the same page, and everybody has more reassurance that way.
Yeah, I think that would be more helpful for him, and he's at the age where he can talk to me and won't overuse it, or but it would be really helpful to have that communication.
So when you're thinking about using a smartwatch or something like that, like what would be your like wish list of things that it would do, and maybe a couple of things that it wouldn't do that make it more appealing to you than a cell phone?
I would say no internet access where he could browse the internet. Two-way talk would be really helpful, and a limited list for two-way talk. So not just punch in a number and I can call anybody, but maybe emergency contact list, grandparents, mom, dad, those types of things.
I think those are important things to watch out for when you're deciding what's the right fit. And there are a lot of options out there. Most smartwatches and things like this that are designed for the reasons that you have said you want an alternative to a cell phone, do include the opportunity to create like a call list on there. And those are the only numbers that can call the kid, and those are the only numbers that the kid can call. And so you can, put in a trusted neighbor, put in, auntie across town, whatever it is, like you mentioned, so that if he can't reach you, you can go down the list and someone else is going to know what's going on. If you're in a meeting or whatever, and he gets hold of grandma first, grandma can call you. And then you're going to be like, something's really up because he tried to call me and now grandma's calling me. Because, sometimes they might take the liberty to just talk to you because they can on their watch, so that's definitely something that could happen. What about games? Would you be pro or con on, because some of these have games that the kids can play, and usually you can limit the time they're allowed to spend on the games, but is that something that would matter to you or not?
I think that would be okay. I would have to make sure he's not doing it during school, but I feel like he's a good enough kid where he would understand the boundaries of it and use it when he's not in school.
Do you think that you would give him the watch all the time, or just during like certain experiences, like at soccer practice, or do you think that you might use it as a daily practice with school and everything?
That's a great question. I hadn't considered. I feel like if he's using it appropriately, where he's not calling us all the time just because he wants to, or he's not playing games during school, he's just using it as a watch and to get in contact with us, I think it would be okay to give it to him all the time. But I would really have to monitor his use on it, and maybe we save it for special occasions and not just, if he's going to soccer, if he's going to be alone, at practices and during pickup or transition for school and stuff.
So it sounds like you'd want to monitor how he's using it. So access to like logs, like history, kind of activity summaries. And most of the watches out there do provide that for you. And typically the way that you would view that as the parent would be to log on to a web browser that connects you. And sometimes you can look at that stuff in real time, and sometimes it updates it, every so often. But that's something that could be reassuring and also telling, especially, as they get older or they get more comfortable or they're more willing to like screw around a little bit, more than they should. But it's also a good way to build trust, I think, and to really start that conversation of responsibility with digital technologies that you're going to be carrying with you, which, let's admit it, someday the kid's going to have a cell phone. But this starts a great conversation about setting those boundaries, protocols, manners, courtesy, the ways to behave and interact with and kind of control the usage of things. So I think that could be really cool. So have you ever tried any kind of thing like this with your kids before?
I have not. My head kept going to cell phones and I just stopped right there and I wasn't sure what to try.
Well, we talked to a company and they have sent you a smartwatch to test with your son. It's Emu. It's like the latest new smartwatch out there in the market. It has a lot of cool features that you've mentioned that you're interested in. And so you're going to give it a go with your son, and then you guys will report back to us on how you liked it.
That sounds great.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I know that it is hard to be vulnerable as a parent and share an experience where you felt stressed out and like, oh my gosh, I wish I hadn't gone that way. But it gave us the opportunity to have an awesome discussion and for you to kind of do some research and look into what those options are out there. And thank you so much for being willing to test this out and, let us know how you liked it, how your son liked it. And we'll have you back and get that update.
Wonderful. Thank you. I appreciate your tips and tricks and just guidance through this.
I want to thank Susie for sharing her experience, concerns, and her kid safety wish list with us. And we're excited to learn how she likes the Emu Kids smartwatch. And for those of you looking for your own kids tracker, we have resources right here. You can check out our video reviews of kids trackers, and you can find our roundup of the best trackers out there linked below in the description box. Plus, you'll also find a list of the best kids smartwatches. Thanks for chatting with us about how to help keep our kids safer. And before you go, be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out on part 2 where Susie gives us all the ins and outs of that Emu smartwatch. Plus, you can check us out on social. The hookup is in the description box below. Everything you need is in the description box below. Until next time, keep an eye on those kiddos and stay safe.